Good day everyone and welcome to Lex's World. Does smoking weed induce paranoia and how can you avoid it? Lots of people wonder this, especially either before the first time they smoke or after the first time that they've experienced some paranoia while high. First off, cannabis as a herb can cause paranoia. It's nowhere near the level caused by substances like meth, but it definitely happens. Sometimes it's a paranoia related to forgetfulness, as simple as, I think I left the oven on. Sometimes it's, I hope no one can tell I'm high. And in extreme cases, people even get more paranoid than that. Based on some questions I've gotten, I wanted to make one thing clear. Just because you experience paranoia while smoking once or twice in a row doesn't mean it will keep on happening. It might not, especially if you smoke a little less per sitting. And yes, certain marijuana strains cause paranoia more often than others, but finding out which strains affect you specifically in that way is a real trial and error process. You can't count on strain reviews that you find online. It really varies by the individual. All that said, weed-related paranoia can usually be managed without knowing strains. There are steps you can take to drastically reduce the odds of it happening in the first place. Some of it is common sense. If you don't want people to know you smoke up, don't smoke up on a day when you have to deal with lots of people. I once knew a guy who got blitzed before he had to give a presentation to 50 people. Think that made him feel paranoid? Oh yeah. Also, I always recommend smoking when you're relatively free for the next 2 to 3 hours and have nothing complicated or pressing to do, like cooking or driving or studying for an exam or working with tools. Otherwise, you'll start worrying about the task at hand and get paranoid about it. Most marijuana paranoia really is a case of situational paranoia, or at least the situation makes it much worse. I follow my own advice of only smoking up when I have uninterrupted free time ahead, and I have almost never experienced paranoia of any kind. Now, if those tips aren't enough for you, my final piece of advice for you chronic, reoccurring paranoia cases comes from an old Bob Marley saying, "When you smoke the herb, it reveals you to yourself." This phrase is true in a lot of ways. It's not a coincidence that many of those same people who often get paranoid while high are the same ones who are described by their friends and family as paranoid in their day-to-day lives. In other words, the high just brings out who they already are. There may not be a way around that. If that happens to be you, that means you should be twice as strict about when, where, and how much you smoke. And that's pretty much it on paranoia. It's a little bit of a short episode today, so I also wanted to talk about grinders. A couple years ago, I released and filmed an episode about picking your first grinder. And in that episode, I mentioned in an offhand way that space case grinders were really good ones. I'll link to that episode in the description. And now I've had a space case grinder since I filmed that episode, and I gotta say, this thing really is a workhorse, so I gotta recommend it again. And you no longer have to spend a fortune on these, like I said in that video. The prices have come down. Again, I'll link in the description to them. And I think that fills out the episode. That's the show, guys. If you liked it, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the like button. We'll see you next time.